You can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, I will show you how you can create this Halloween themed haunted house in the app Procreate on your iPad. During this tutorial, we will let go of perfectionism and embrace wonkiness, because wonky houses look a lot more creepy, of course. You will make use of the perspective grid. I'll show you how you can work with layers, but also how you can use alpha lock and clipping mask. While you follow this video and create your own project, you will get more confident using the different features in Procreate. And I'm sure you will feel super proud once you have reached the end of this tutorial. So don't forget to share your work, of course. If you're sharing it on Instagram, then it would be great if you could tag me in the image, not just in the description, because that will enable me to find your work, and then maybe we will see it in the next video. Just like these flotastic results from my friends at Patreon. If you are a frequent watcher, then of course you already know, but Patreon is the place you can go if you are starting to develop a serious Procreate tutorial addiction, or if you want to get your Procreate skills to the next level. Because there I have more than 150 tutorials ranging from beginner levels to more advanced levels. But now let's get started with this tutorial and create our haunted house. For this haunted house, I'm working on a canvas that is 3000 by 2000 pixels with the color profile set to sRGB, and in the description you will find a link to the color palette with all the colors we'll be using for this tutorial. And you don't need any extra brushes because the brushes we'll be using are already in the app Procreate. So if you're ready and your iPad and pen are charged, let's not delay any longer and get started. We'll start off by setting the scene for our haunted house. The first thing we'll do is change the background color. Go to the layer menu, the two little squares, then tap background color, and then pick the first color in the color palette. Next, let's grab a brush. Let's go for the monoline brush under calligraphy, and then grab this color over here. That's the 7th color in the first row. And we are going to use that color to create a little hill. Now the opacity of the brush should be at 100%, and I have the size set to 30%, but the size doesn't really matter. Let's start about here, and then make a wobbly line going up, and then back down again, like this. So the highest point is pretty much in the center of your canvas. Then drag in the color underneath to fill that shape. Next, we'll make a new layer. We'll go to the layer menu, then tap the plus, and then tap and hold that layer and drag it underneath the hill layer. And then we'll grab another color, this one over here, 2nd color in the first row. And let's draw a circle like this. Hold your pen in place. Then you can make it bigger or smaller. Let's go for something like this. Then tap ellipse here. And now let's move these handles to make it even bigger. And I want it to be, well, let's pinch out a little bit. I want it to go from side to side and extend here at the top. So I just want a little space of purple on the left and right side, a bit like this. And I want you to have something similar to this, then just drag in the color. Next, we'll create a moon shape. Let's make a new layer on top of this one. So tap the plus, then grab the next color, 3rd color in the first row, and then we'll make another circle. Just draw a circle, hold your pen in place, and this time tap one finger on the screen to make a perfectly round circle. Make it about this size, then tap circle to move it around. I want it to be pretty much in the center, and then drag in a color. Then let's make a few more layers. Let's tap the plus in the layer menu, then grab another color. We'll grab this one, 4th color in the first row. And for the brush, we will switch to the script brush, which is also under calligraphy. And with this brush, the harder you press, the thicker your line will become. But of course that only works if you are using a pen that has pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil. I have the opacity set to 100%, and I'll set the size to 5%. And now we are going to make some like jagged mountain shapes. We'll start about here and just make a random jagged shape. You don't have to give this too much thought. Just want some peaks here. And to the right. I want it to be nice and pointy. I'm going to go all the way to the right until your line touches the side, and then you can drag in the color. Now let's add even more. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. Then let's grab the next color, fifth color in the first row. And then let's make more shapes. Let's make one over here, right in between these peaks. Make sure you close the shape before you drag in the color. Let's make another one over here. Go down, loop around, close the shape, and drag in the color. Then let's do this one more time. Let's tap the plus, create a new layer, and then move on to the sixth color in the first row. And let's make some more of these peaks, jagged peaks, from left to right. Loop around, close the shape, drag in the color, and make another one over here. Make sure you close the shape and drag in the color. Now that we have a really basic scene, let's start working on our haunted house. But to save some layer space first, you can merge these three layers with your peaks. So let's pinch them together. Let's leave the other elements on their own separate layers. And now let's make a new layer on top of our hill layer. So first tap that one, then tap the plus. And now to create our haunted house, I'd like to use the perspective grid. To turn on the perspective grid, you need to go to the wrench, then to canvas, then turn on the drawing guide here, then tap edit drawing guide. And here at the bottom, you can pick perspective. Then tap your screen to make a vanishing point, and let's drag that to the right outside of your canvas to about here. Then let's make another one. Let's first zoom out a bit and place another one over here. And you can see these perspective lines with two different colors. You can change the colors here at the top if you would like to use different colors, and you can turn down or turn up the opacity of the lines and turn up the thickness. I'll make them a little bit thicker. I hope you will be able to see them better. And let's also turn on assisted drawing so that all our lines, all the lines that we create will follow this perspective grid. And then tap done. I really want this haunted house to look nice and wonky, but at the same time, I do want it to have some perspective. So that's why we're using this grid here, so that our wonky house will make some sense. Now first, let's create a little sketch as a guide. Let's go to the sketching brushes, and I'd like to use the 6B pencil. And then for the color, let's just grab something really dark. And the opacity of this brush is at 100%, and I have it set to 50% in size. Now let's just make a very simple house shape. So we'll have a little block here. And you can see it's following that grid. Let's go up. So we have, well, let's undo that. We have a little block shape, and it needs a roof. Let's make a line like this. And then let's turn off our perspective grid. Once you have something like this, let's turn it off by tapping the layer and turning off drawing assist. Then let's go back. Now we can make different lines. We can make a line like this, a curved line, and another one here for our roof. And it'll move in this direction and have a curved line here as well. You can see that this house, it looks nice and wonky, and we can definitely work with this. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's go to the Move and Transform tool, have it set to uniform, make it a bit smaller like this. Then we'll go to the Layer menu, we'll tap the N, and we'll lower the opacity of this sketch of this guide. Let's set it to 30%, and then we'll make a layer underneath. We'll tap Layer 1 first and tap the plus. And now we are going to create 3 layers, one for the front here. Well, is it a front? Yeah, let's call it the front. The right side, That will be on one layer, then the left side, the side of the house will be on a layer, and the roof will be on a layer. First, let's start with this front side. For the front side, I'd like to use this color over here, second color in the second row. And for the brush, let's go back to the script brush under calligraphy. Let's go in here and let's create a shape. And like I said, our house is going to be a bit wonky, so don't worry too much about the lines. They can be a little bit wonky too. We're letting go of perfectionism here. Let's drag in the color. Let's fix this little area. And now let's make another layer for the side. Let's tap the plus. Let's grab a different color. This one over here, first color in the second row. And let's make the side of this house. We'll go over this area. Make a line here and then drag in the color. And then for the roof, we'll make another layer. Let's tap the plus. And for the roof, let's use this color over here. Fifth color in the second row. It's not the final color we'll use for the roof, but right now I want the colors to look different enough so we can clearly see the different elements. Let's make a curve here, and you don't have to follow your sketch exactly. It's just a guide. And we can make this a little bit more curved and wonky. And then this side of the roof. Go along that edge. So it'll be something like this, then drag in the color. Now we have a very basic wonky house. Let's turn off our sketch layer, or actually we can just remove it. Let's slide to the left, tab delete. And now to keep things organized, let's group these layers. For this part of the house, let's slide to the right on all the layers so they are all blue. Then you can tap group. And now let's give it a name. Let's just tap here, then use rename. And I'm just going to call it 1. But you can give it any name you like. Tap enter. Now let's close this group. And let's go to the move and transform tool. Let's move this part a little bit. I want it to be placed about here. And then we are going to duplicate this. Let's slide to the left on the group and then tap duplicate. Then let's call this group 2. So tap rename. I'll call it 2 and tap enter. Then we'll go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and we'll use flip horizontal. And then we're going to move this part upward. And we'll make it a bit smaller. I want it to be about here. And I'd like to move it underneath the other layer. So tap and hold it in the layer menu and drag it underneath. And then I'd like to duplicate number 1 again. So our first group will be duplicated. Slide to the left, tap duplicate, and tap the layer again to rename it. We'll name this 3, or you can name it whatever you like. Tap enter, then go to the move and transform tool. And then let's make this one smaller. I like to place this one here. Make it even smaller. You can play around a bit. You can also use freeform if you'd like to make it a bit like more narrow, stretch it a bit, all sorts of things. I'll go for something like this. And let's go back to the layer menu, go back to number 1, slide to the left, tap duplicate, move this one to the top. Then let's name this. Let's use rename and name this 4. Tap enter. Go to the move and transform tool. Let's zoom out a bit. We're going to place it here. Let's use freeform to stretch it a bit. Go for something like this. Then tap the arrow. And then let's make some adjustments. For instance, on this group, I want the left side to have that dark color and the right side to have that light color. So let's go to that one. That was 2. Let's see. Yeah, that's 2. Let's open it. Then go to this layer. Then grab the darker color, first color in the second row, and drag it in there. Then go to the other layer, layer 7 here. Grab the lighter color, second color in the second row, and drag it on there. So now this makes sense. Then let's also have a look at this part of the roof, of that smaller portion there. Let's close this, then go to 3, then go to this roof layer. And for now, let's just make it pink. Let's grab this second color in the first row, drag it on there. Then let's use our brush, our script brush, and let's make it a bit different. Attach it to that other roof. So at this point, we can make some adjustments to the different elements. You can also tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to that script brush. And then you can also erase parts. Make it look like this. Then let's go to this dark layer here. But first we can switch this color back to that light color. So we can go to this one, 5th color in the second row, drag it on there. Then go to this layer, layer 7, which has the dark color. So let's grab that first color in the second row. And let's make this a bit longer. Let's make it stretch to about here, maybe a bit less low. Now let's go to this layer, layer 6. Let's grab that color, second color in the second row. And let's make this more diagonal, attached to that roof. Then I want to get rid of this part of the roof from this one, from number 1. Let's go to that group, then to the roof, then use the eraser and get rid of that part. So we're working on kind of making this make sense, but still we're going for wonky. Doesn't all have to make sense. Now let's add an extra part of a roof over here. Well, let's go to group number 4. Let's close these. We'll go to group number 4. Then we'll make a new layer on top of this one. Let's tap the plus. And first let's use that pink again so we can clearly see what we're doing. And I want a roof part to be here. And it's nice and wonky, attached to that other part. Something like this, but I'm going to adjust it a bit. I filled the layer, then grab the eraser. And then you can remove some parts. Make the edges more crisp. Should be something like this. Then let's fill that layer with that light blue again, 5th color in the second row. Let's drag it in there. And then we'll make a new layer underneath these 2 roof layers. We'll tap layer 7, then tap the plus. And with this light color, let's create some like poles. Let's make a line going down. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, then another one over here. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and over here. Doesn't really matter how low you go. You're going to add some grass on top there, so you won't be able to see the underside later. So just make a bunch of these. Then some dark ones over here. Let's grab this color, tap and hold. Make another one here. And one over here. All right, so now we pretty much have the base of our haunted house. I feel like maybe we can actually stretch it out a little bit. And to do that, you just need to select all of the groups. So let's slide to the right on all these groups so all of the layers are selected. Then you can go to the Move and Transform tool. And while you have it set to freeform, you can just play around with the house. Move it around until you have something that you like. And at this point, I'd really suggest just playing around with the different layers until you have a basic shape, a base for your haunted house that pleases you before we continue moving on to adding all, well, like the textures and the windows. So let's do that now. Let's tap the arrow, get out of here, adjust whatever you like to your haunted house. And then let's go to group number 1. Let's open that. And now let's go to layer 6 here. I want to adjust that a little bit. I actually want to make it a bit longer. Let's go to our brush, then grab this color. You can just hold your finger in that spot to grab it. Let's make this a little bit longer. Fill that shape. Then grab the eraser, and I want to add a little like indent here. Remove a little bit, then go down. Just hold my pen in place to make it nice and straight. So just changing the shape a little bit here. Then let's go to this layer, layer 7. Use the brush. Let's grab the brush, grab this color, and add a little bit here as well. Drag in the color. And now let's move ahead and add some more interest to our house here. Let's start with layer 6 and tap the plus. And then the new layer, let's set that to clipping mask so that whatever we draw here, it'll only show up on this front of the house. Then for the color, let's grab this one, third color in the second row. And then we are going to add some lines as if there is some wood or some bricks. And these lines that are horizontal, make sure to have them follow the perspective grid. Those green lines should be followed. Here we'll make a line that is dividing that top part, which is sticking out a little bit, with that lower part. We'll just add some of these lines as if there are some bricks. And really, it's okay if they are wonky, if they don't follow the grid exactly. And the thickness doesn't have to be like the same all over. Because if it looks wonky, it'll also look a bit more creepy, also a bit more playful. Just add some lines until you are all the way at the bottom. Now let's make another layer. Underneath this one, we'll tap layer 6, then we'll tap the plus, and then we'll grab that light color, that 5th color in the second row, and we'll add a few little highlights along these lines and along the side here, along the top part here, along some of these like bricks. And then for a shadow, we'll make another layer on top of this one. We'll tap the plus, set that to clipping mask as well. And then we'll tap the N and set the layer blending mode to multiply. That's great for adding shadows without losing any of the details that we have just created. For the color, we'll use this one, 6th color in the second row. And let's make a shadow here, for instance, underneath that part of the roof. Drag in the color. Shadow here, just something like this, and underneath this ridge. Now we'll go back to the layer, tap the M, and lower the opacity to 50%. Then once you're happy with these bricks, you can just pinch these layers together to save some layer space. Then let's create a window. Let's tap the plus, and for the color, let's go to this one, 8th color in the second row. And then over here, we'll make a curved window, or whatever window you like. Of course, you can also go for a different shape. Drag in the color, and if you want it to be more tidy, you can grab the eraser, go along that underside, make sure that follows the perspective grid roughly, Then let's grab the brush again. Let's also make some windows here. Let's make rectangular shaped windows. Again, make them follow the perspective grid. And I like it if these are a little bit wonky. Drag in the color. Then use the eraser if you need some more wonkiness. And some pointy or crisp edges. Then let's go to this layer, tap it, and use Alpha Lock. Now we can draw on this layer without going outside of these shapes. Then for the color, we'll grab this one, third color in the second row, and then we'll make some lines here. And also these can be a little bit wonky. And the horizontal ones should follow the perspective grid. Over here as well, one vertical and two that would be horizontal if you would stand in front of this part. But of course, when you look at them like this, they are diagonal. All right, so now we have the front of the house. Once you're happy, you can merge these together. So let's just pinch these and then let's go to this layer. Let's tap the plus for a new layer on top and then set that new layer to clipping mask. This time for the color, we'll use this color, fourth color in the second row. And we'll start adding some lines again. I hope you can see them on camera, because of course it's a bit dark. But just make some shapes like bricks, following the perspective grid, but this time you need to follow the pink lines. Because we are going in a different direction. This is the other side of the house. And here you need to follow those lines. Then let's use a multiply layer again. Let's tap the plus, set the new layer to clipping mask, tap the N, scroll up to multiply, then grab that blue color again, sixth color in the second row. And let's add a shadow here. Drag in the color, perhaps a little bit here as well. Then let's lower the opacity. We'll tap the M, slide to the left to 50%. And then once you're happy, you can pinch these together. Then let's go to the roof. For the roof, I first want to change the color. Let's grab this color, first color in the second row, and drag it onto the roof. And then let's go back and grab this color, fifth color in the second row. Then let's go and add a new layer. Let's tap the plus, set that layer to clipping mask. And then let's go over the front and add a light edge to the front of the roof. Here as well, just a little edge. I want that inside to look dark actually, so let's grab that dark color again and darken this. We can actually go even darker there. Let's grab this color, fourth color in the second row, to darken that inside of that roof here. We'll also use this color for some of the roof tiles. Make these type of shapes. I hope you can see them. They're just basic roof tiles. Following the grid, following the pink line. And then we'll add a shadow again. So we'll tap the plus for a new layer, set that to clipping mask, then tap the N and scroll up to multiply. Then grab the blue again, that sixth color in the second row. And let's add a shadow here. Loop around to close the shape, drag in the color, then go back to the layer, tap the M, and slide to 50%. And then when you're happy, you can pinch these together. So now we have one part of our house, and now we will follow these exact same steps, but without the windows for this area. then we'll move on to this area. Let's start with this side. Let's go to that group. That's group number 2. Let's open it. Then go to this layer. Tap the plus for a new layer. Set it to clipping mask. And then for the color, we'll go to this one, third color in the second row. And again, we will add some lines, like some brickwork, roughly following the grid. Then we will add a multiply layer again. So tap the plus, set it to clipping mask, tap the N, scroll up to multiply. Let's already set it to 50% actually. And then for the color, we'll grab the 6th color in the second row and add a shadow here. Then for the other side of the house. First, let's pinch these together. I'm happy with those. Then let's go to layer 6, tap the plus for a new layer, set it to clipping mask. And then for the color, we'll grab the 4th color in the second row. And then again, let's add some lines, vertical lines here. And some lines following that, well, the pink, well, those pink lines of the grid. Then for some shadow, let's tap the plus for a new layer, set it to clipping mask again. And I tap the N and scroll up to multiply. And again, we'll set it to 50%. Grab the blue, that 6th color in the second row, and add a shadow here and over here, like that roof is casting a shadow on that wall. Then for a window, let's first pinch these together, then tap the plus for a new layer. And then let's grab that window color again. This one, that 8th color in the second row. And let's make a rectangular window following the pink lines roughly. Drag in the color. Use the eraser to erase parts if needed. Now let's add a little gradient here. Let's tap this layer, then use alpha lock so we won't be able to go outside of that shape. And then for the brush, we will grab the soft brush under airbrushing. And for the color, we will grab this one, 7th color in the second row. The opacity of this brush is at 70%. Let's set the size to 5. And then let's go over the top area just a little bit to add a slight gradient. Then let's grab this color, 4th color in the second row, and grab the script brush again under calligraphy. And then we will make a line like this and one like this following the pink lines of the grid. Now we just need to work on the roof in this area. Let's go there. We can pinch these together actually, saving some layer space. Let's go to the roof. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, set it to clipping mask. Then grab, well, we don't have to grab anything. I actually need this color, 4th color in the second row. Let's darken this side of the roof. And let's also use the soft brush to add a little bit of a gradient here at the top. Let's go over here. Just add a little bit of dark blue to this roof. Then let's go back to the 5th color in the second row and back to the script brush under calligraphy. And then let's lighten up this side. Then for the roof tiles, we need the dark color again. Let's use this one, actually, 3rd color in the second row. And then in this case, we need to follow the green lines of the grid, because we are going in a different direction. Just create some simple tiles like this. I actually also want to use a multiply layer. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. Let's set it to clipping mask. Then tap the N and scroll up to multiply, and let's already set it to 50%. Then we'll grab that blue 6th color in the second row, and then let's add a shadow here. All right, now we need to move on to the final parts of this house. Let's dive in and start with this roof first. Let's close this group. Let's merge these together, actually, those roof parts. Then let's go to group number 4, then to this roof. Then let's grab another color, this one, 1st color in the second row, and fill that roof with that color. Then we'll make a new layer on top, set it to clipping mask. And the reason I'm using a new layer with clipping mask instead of setting this layer to alpha lock is that a layer with clipping mask gives you a bit more freedom, a bit more possibilities. You can easily erase parts on that layer without erasing anything of the shape of the roof. Now for the color, let's grab the 4th color in the second row again. And then let's make some roof tiles following the pink lines of our grid, because we're going in this direction, and they can be playful and wonky. Just something like this. Then let's grab the light color, 5th color in the second row for a little bit of light here at the front. And maybe add a bit of a dark edge right in that, well, that left area here. Let's grab the 4th color again. Now let's go along that inside. And then let's grab the soft brush under airbrushing again and add a bit of a dark gradient here. All right, I'm happy with this roof. Let's pinch these together. Now let's go to this roof. For this one, I also want to add this color, 1st color in the second row. Let's drag it in. But I also want to add a bit of a gradient here. Let's use that soft brush, set it to this color, 5th color in the second row. And now let's just set this layer to alpha lock, because that works the same as clipping mask. You just have a bit less flexibility, but in this case, it's okay. Let's just go over this area, light it up a little bit. Then let's go to the script brush under calligraphy and add this light edge. You can either add a new layer set to clipping mask if you want more flexibility, or you can just work directly on this layer with, well, what should we do? This color, 4th color in the second row, and then we'll add some more roof tiles. Nice wonky shapes, just something like this. Then let's go to this layer. I want that to be quite a bit darker. We can actually merge that side with the front. Let's just pinch these together. And then let's give it a nice dark color. Let's actually use this one. Let's go to the layer, set it to alpha lock, then tap the layer again and use fill layer so that it's entirely dark. Now let's move to this layer with all those poles. Let's turn on alpha lock here, and then let's use the soft brush under airbrushing. And with this dark color, let's go over that underside and add a bit of a shadow there. You can fade a bit. Just using rounded motions like this. Now for the final touch on the house, I want to add a door. I want to add it on top of this layer, and we can actually set that new layer to clipping mask. So first tap the plus, then set this to clipping mask. Then for the color, let's use this one, 1st color in the second row. But you know what? Let me actually first use this color, 2nd color in the 1st row, so you will easily be able to see the shape of the door. I shouldn't be using the soft brush. Let's go back to the script brush under calligraphy. But this way, when I use this color, it's easier to see the shape. I guess something like this. Let's drag in the color. And you can move it around with the move and transform tool. Or you can make it bigger or smaller. I'll just go for something like this. Maybe, yeah, it's right behind that beam. Maybe move it a little bit to the left. Grab the brush. Let me adjust it a little bit. I see some gaps. Now let's drag in the other color. That first color in the second row, let's drag it in. You can see it's much harder to see this way. Now let's add some wooden texture. Let's use that dark color. Choose this 1/3 color in the second row. And let's set this layer to alpha lock so we won't be going outside of the shape. Let's just make some lines. You know what? These are actually too light. Let's grab this color. That's better. Nice dark lines, giving it a wooden look. And now let's add a little window. Let's do that on a new layer. Let's tap the plus. Let's grab this color, 7th color in the second row, and let's make a rounded window in this door. The underside should follow the pink lines of the grid. And of course you can use the eraser. And then let's set this layer to alpha lock. Tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, grab the dark color, 4th color in the second row. And let's first make a little triangular shape and then a shape like this towards the outside, or any pattern that you like for this window. So now that we have our crazy wonky house, we can actually turn off the perspective grid. Let's go to the wrench, then to canvas, turn off the drawing guide, and untap the wrench again. For the next step, we'll be working on the environment, adding grass and trees, and working a bit more on the sky. Let's start with that actually. Let's go to our moon layer, and let's add a new layer on top by tapping the plus. Just to be sure, let's set it to clipping mask. And then for the color, let's grab this one over here, the 7th color in the second row. And we still have the script brush. And we are just going to add some really wonky, wobbly shapes to our moon. Really random. Just do whatever comes to mind and make multiple shapes here. Because of course this is more like a cartoony land. This is not realism. We can do whatever we like, and this moon can look however we want it to look like. And shape over here. Nice and wonky. Close the shape and then drag in the color. You can use continue filling at the top to fill all of these shapes. And then we'll go to the layer menu, we'll tap the N and slide to the left to, let's say, around 17 or 18% till it's nice and subtle. And now you can actually merge these layers together. Next, we are going to add some cloud shapes on top of this shape. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, set that layer to clipping mask, then grab the sky color, 1st color in the 1st row. Let's zoom out a little bit and let's create some wobbly shapes. Make sure they are closed before you drag in a color. So just some wobbly shapes. Drag in a color for each of these shapes. Again, you don't have to give this too much thought. Just make some random shapes and fill them. Maybe one more here. Drag in a color, and then let's lower the opacity. Let's tap the N and slide to the left, and let's set it to 40%. Now let's move on to the grass and add some trees. But first, I think we can lower everything just a little bit so there's more room for our sky. I feel like it needs a little bit more room. Let's select this layer and the hill shape. Then let's go to the move and transform tool. And just move it down a little bit to about here. Do make sure that it stays in the center. You can turn on snapping here under snapping to make sure that it stays centered, because you don't want an edge here where there's no color. So we'll go for something like this and then tap the arrow. For the next step, let's create our trees, and let's do that on a layer on top of all the others. To save layer space, you can actually merge the moon and the sky here. Now let's go up. We can also merge that door with that part, or what you could do is merge all of the house layers. If you don't intend on changing anything anymore there, then you can definitely do that. Now let's tap the plus to create a layer for our trees. For the trees, I'd like to use this color over here. That's the 8 color in the first row. And let's make our first tree over here. Let's start this and make a wobbly shape in this direction to make a branch. Then let's make another line right next to it and make the branch thinner as you move towards the outside. Then let's make a shape like this. And of course, you're free to make whatever shape you like for your tree. And then let's go here. And here, the underside of the tree. I want a nice and twisted tree. First we'll make the biggest branches, and then later we can make all the side branches. And we have the underside with some roots. Make some shapes like this. Let's drag in the color. We do need to go in there and fill some gaps. So this is really just the main shape of our tree. Nice and twisted, like I said. And let's also make the main shape for our other tree. Let's make it start here. Nice and twisted. Maybe a bit like this. Then the other line right next to it. Then we have the roots at the bottom. Just go for a shape like, well, something like this, and then drag in the color. Let's make another branch, big branch here. Drag in the color. So we have these main shapes, and if you want to adjust them a little bit without having to draw, then of course you can go to the magic wand and then to liquefy, have it set to push with distortion and momentum set to none. I have pressure set to max. You can play around with the size of your brush, and then you can just push and pull parts of your trees to make it look more twisted, for instance, and to gently nudge parts and see what shape you'll like for your tree. Just focusing on the main shape of the tree. Let's make this a little bit higher. So we're just starting out with these shapes. I think they look fine. Let's go back to the brush and start adding more branches. For instance, we can add one here. And remember, if you press hard, you will get a thicker line. If you press lightly, it'll get thinner. And you want your branches to be thinner on the outer end. So use less pressure as you go. Add some side branches, maybe a little lost branch here. Here we can add some extra. Just tiny little branches at the end. Here we can make an extra side branch, for instance. Thicker near the main branch and thin as you move outward. I think this looks nice. Let's do the same thing for the other tree. So just add a bunch of branches until you have something like this. Now to add some texture to these trees, we are going to add a new layer on top of our tree layer. So we'll tap the plus and let's set this to clipping mask. Then for the color, let's grab this one over here, first color in the third row. And now we are going to add some lines, some texture to our tree along the side here, for instance, and we'll follow those curves of the tree. And in some areas you can make that line a little bit thicker. You can add extra lines, just following those curves. And you don't have to add a whole lot. And I'm focusing on the right side of the tree where the light is hitting. Just like with the house, the lightest parts are on the right side. We'll do the same for our tree. So the right side is lit. These creases on the tree are lit on the right side. Following those twists. And just don't add too much. Then for the one on the right, let's do the same. Let's add a nice big part here. A bit shaped like this. Here along that curve. Pointy shape like this. And here as well, following that curve. Along the roots. A little bit over here. Perhaps on this branch. And some over here. And a little bit here. Then to add more interest to these lines here, I'd like to add more color variation there. And to do that, we'll tap this layer and then turn on alpha lock. And now we can grab the soft brush under airbrushing. And we can grab this blue, for instance, that fifth color in the first row. And let's just go over here, for instance, add a bit of that blue. And a little bit over here as well. But you can use multiple colors. You can also add this color, for instance, third color in the third row for a little bit of a bright purplish boost. I think this looks great. Now let's work on the underground. Let's start by adding a shape underneath our trees. Once you're happy with your trees, by the way, you can pinch these together, then tap this layer and then tap the plus for a new layer that is underneath our trees. Then for the color, let's use this color again. 8 color in the first row. And let's add a shape over here. But first we do need our script brush, not the soft brush. So let's go to calligraphy, use the script brush, and then add a shape here. And it's going to be in front of our house, like this. And well, let's go all the way here. Then loop back a little bit, make a wiggly shape. Go back up here along the tree. Something like this, then drag in the color. Let's also add some over here in front of our house. Drag in the color. Let's add a little bit over here. This will be a patch of grass. And over here in the foreground. And drag in the color to fill these shapes. Now we'll start adding some grass shapes. We'll start over here with layer 1 and we'll grab the color that we used there, so we can just tap and hold. And now we are going to add some grass shapes. And you can just draw them in by hand. These pointy shapes along our horizon. Let's make short ones and longer ones. Adding some interest to that area of our horizon. Perhaps you have a nice grass brush in your library, then of course you can use that as well. Just create that nice horizon. Let's also add some here. You don't have to go all the way. You can leave a little gap. And over here as well. Just some tufts of grass. So you get something like this. And I want to do the same for these dark areas. Let's go to that layer 23. Let's grab that dark color again, that 8 color in the first row. And let's first go along this area, for instance. Add a lot of grass. Also in front of the house. Multiple shapes and sizes. And it takes a lot of work, but it looks nice. And also over here. And then we'll do the same for this area and for this area. Next, I'd like to make some stairs going down from this door towards this area. Let's go and make a layer on top of this one. Let's tap the plus. And then for the color, we'll grab this one. First color and the third row. And let's dive in here. Let's create a little rock-like shape here. And then place one underneath. A little bit bigger, but close to the other. Another one. And you can play around a bit with the sizes and the shapes. And I'm coloring this in by hand, but of course you can also just drop in the color. Just like this. Just a variety of shapes till you are about here. Let's drag in the color. Then over here, I want to create some shapes that will be behind this grass. And I also want to add some shapes that are on top. So let's continue here. are more almost like puddles. And one here. And here in front, let's drag in the color. Use continue filling. Tap these areas. And now let's make a layer underneath that grass. Let's tap this group, then tap the plus. And now let's make some more shapes. Like a big one over here. Drag in the color. Create another one over here. Drag in the color. Maybe one here. Drag it in. Maybe create another one over here. Now you can see that this area, the dark area, is on top here, and I don't want it to be. So let's just change that a little bit. Let's go to that layer. Let's grab the eraser and get rid of that here so that we can see this shape. Now let's add some more variety to these shapes. Let's first go to this layer. Let's tap it and turn on alpha lock, and then go to the soft brush under airbrushing to add a little gradient here. Let's first grab this color, second color in the third row. Let's use that a bit over here and here. Then we'll grab the fourth color in the third row. And we'll add that here in the foreground. And for that lighter color, that second color in the third row, I also want to use that on this layer that is underneath that dark area. So let's tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then let's go over here, making that lighter. And then I want to go even lighter. I want to grab this color, fifth color in the first row, and add a bit of like a glow here. Then we'll move back to layer 24. I want to add some highlights to these rocks, and we'll do that with the script brush under calligraphy. And for the color, we'll use this one, third color in the third row. And let's just go along the edges of some of these rocks. Just those that are a bit beyond the house. These are more in shadow, so I'll keep those like they are. But here we can add some highlight. Like this. Then let's add some more color variety to the underground. And we'll do that underneath these layers. Let's actually go to this one, our hill layer. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, and let's set this layer to clipping mask so we won't be able to go outside of the shape. And for the color, let's use this ninth color in the first row. And for the brush, we'll stick with the script brush. Let's make a shape here, for instance. Just a random wobbly shape. Going behind here, then drop in the color. We can do some more over here. Drag in the color. Perhaps some here in front of this tree. Drag in the color. Then for some more, I'd like to add a new layer. Let's tap the plus, set it to clipping mask. And I want to later lower the opacity for this one. So right now it'll look the same, but we will make this more subtle later. So first create some shapes. Just nice and random, but it'll add a lot of interest to this area. Let's add some over here. Now let's drag in the color, use continue filling, drop it in here. And then, like I said, we'll lower the opacity. Tab the N, slide to the left, and let's set it to 45%. We can also add some extra interest. Let's go to layer 1 here. Let's turn on alpha lock, and then with the soft brush, let's go and grab that. We can add some gradients. Let's grab this color, for instance, 6th color in the 3rd row, and let's go over here, add a bit of a pinkish touch. You know what? Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 12%. Let's go here, add a bit of that gradient, perhaps a little bit over here. And here we can also darken it a little bit. Let's grab this color, 9th color in the 1st row, and go over here for a little bit of shadow. And for some extra touches, let's add some rocks. Let's do that on a layer on top of all the others. So let's go to the top, tap the plus. For the brush, we need the script brush again. And for the color, let's go and use this one again. 8th color in the 1st row. And in the lighter areas, but also on top of this dark one, we can add some rock shapes. And some will be big, some will be small. Just some random rocks like this. Let's drag in the color. You can use continue filling, of course. And then let's go to the layer, tap it, and turn on alpha lock. And then for the color, use this one over here, 5th color in the 3rd row, and use that to add a little highlight on the right side, just like we did with everything. Highlights on the right side, like that. And I also want to add a few pink touches to the foreground here, and maybe a little bit of color variety. Let's go to this layer. To add that color variety, let's tap the plus for a new layer, and let's set it to clipping mask. Then for the color, let's grab this one, 9th color in the 1st row. I just want to go over here and add a shape, drag in the color, maybe a bit over here as well, just for some more variety. And it might be a bit too light now, so you can just tap the N on the layer and lower the opacity. I'll go for 60%. Then I'll tap the plus for another layer. You can actually merge these, of course, once you're happy. And on a new layer, we'll use this color, 6th color in the 3rd row, to also add some pink touches here. And these are just random little oval dabs. Perhaps these are flowers, or it's pink blood. I don't know, this is a haunted house. Could be anything. These are just, well, most of all, these are just random shapes to add some pink in its foreground to balance the colors a bit, because we have that pink in our sky, and I like to have it reflected a bit on the lower area of our illustration as well. So I think everything is balanced out nicely right now, and I think we can call our haunted house finished. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. I hope you have learned some new techniques perhaps. Most of all, I hope you had a great and relaxing time, of course. If you are in the flow and if you want to keep creating, then you can get started with this tutorial, for instance. I would like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time for the next tutorial.